about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening, everyone. It's Jim here at Studio HQ, and we're ready for our fourth, I think it's our fourth A-Level Politics live revision session. And as always, we've got the dream team with us tonight. We've got Kira in the middle and Duncan on the left. Duncan, you look like you're in the House of Commons library there with all those manuals and dusty books behind you. Very impressive.
It does look and it is real. It's not a green screen.
It's not a green screen. What are you saying, Duncan? It's not a green screen like my screen.
I'm sure those are real bricks.
I might find a House of Commons or House of Lords background for the end of the session. But I'll probably be too busy fielding and looking at all the answers coming into the chat room. What are we going to do today? Parliament's the topic. What kind of things are we going to cover in the next 30 minutes?
Absolutely. So we're looking at Parliament, all aspects of Parliament, Commons, Lords, committees, everything, legislation, the roles of Parliament. Going to go through quite a lot of stuff with a number of different activities. And if you can engage with the activities using the chat window, that would be brilliant. So sometimes, for example, when it's multiple choice questions, you can just type in A, B, C, or D. Other times we'll ask you to type a bit more in. We'll explain at the time what you need to do. Okay, so I think we'll get cracking straight away. So before we do some multiple choice questions, we've just got a quick big reveal activity here. So we're going to get some clues coming up on the screen, which are clues to a parliamentarian, a famous parliamentarian. And what we would like you to do is try and work out who it is. If you're the first person to work out who it is, we'll give you a big round of applause and a call out. So, okay, let's see. How few clues do you need to work out who this is? So they were born on the 10th of June, 1957. Feel free to do some speculative guesses. Obviously, it's a lot of possible people at the moment, unless you happen to know it. It's not Cromwell. No. Okay. I think we need another clue, don't we? Should we look at the next clue? The son of a former Labour MP. Okay, we're going to see some guesses coming through. Tony Benn, John suggested, who was indeed the son of a former Labour MP, but he'd already been in Parliament for 7 years by 1957, so it can't be Tony Benn. We've had suggestions of Tony Blair, Jeremy Corbyn. A few interesting suggestions there. Hillary Benn's a good guess, isn't it? Because of yeah, that's a pretty good guess. Okay, should we have another look? Supports Bolton Wanderers and the Warrington Wolves. Stephen Kinnock's another good guess. I think he's a bit younger than that, though. Okay, not a sports fan. I don't know. Does Hillary Benn support the Bolton Wanderers and the Warrington Wolves? It doesn't seem likely, does it? Oh, we've had a guess. Lindsay Hoyle there. That could be a good guess. Shall we have a look at the next one? The MP for Chorley since 1997. That guess is looking stronger, isn't it? Lindsay Hoyle. Yeah, a couple other people coming in with that one now as well. Shall we have one more clue? Order. It's not John Bercow. So I think we got it. I think we saw that answer there. We'll still Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons. So well done, those of you who got that one. A few people got it, and there were some good guesses there. Yeah, and getting your orders in the chat window. Very good. Okay, so we'll hand over to Kira now for 6 multiple choice questions. Okay, see how you do.
Cool, thank you. Good guesses so far. So the first one is, which body has the power to make, revoke, and change laws? So just guess A, B, C, or D, and just put it into the chat. And it is, yeah, exactly, much more heavy stuff now. Okay, so good seeing some good answers coming through already. Yeah, not too heavy then. Seems like everybody's getting these right so far, which is excellent. So the correct answer is A for legislature. So specifically, actually, the House of Commons is the most dominant within Parliament for passing laws. But yeah, so well done, everybody, so far. So our next question is, which body runs the country, so specifically runs the country and proposes laws? A, B, C, or D? Good guesses so far. Excellent. Very quick on this one. Brilliant. These are far too easy for you, I think. So excellent. The correct answer is A, the executive. So the Prime Minister and Cabinet specifically. So brilliant. So the next question is, which body interprets and applies the law, upholding the rule of law in society? So we've got the third branch here. Good, correct answers coming through again straight away. Fantastic. Good to see you again, Samuel Jackson. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Good. So the correct answer for this one then is B, the judiciary. So although it has quite limited power as a body, it kind of more so suggests rather than enforces, because Parliament is sovereign. It still plays quite a crucial role in upholding the Constitution. So well done. So our next question is getting a bit more difficult, maybe. What blocks the House of Lords from voting against measures included in the governing party's manifesto? So this one came about in 1945 when Attlee's government was struggling to pass legislation that they had put forward on the manifesto. It was probably a bit too radical for the very conservative-based House of Lords. And brilliant, excellent. So the correct answer is B, the Salisbury Convention. Important, not an act, it is a convention as well. So in terms of our constitution, it's still kind of limited in its protections. So our next question is, in the House of Commons, on how many days is time set aside for debates chosen by backbenchers? A, B, C, or D? Okay. Oh, this one's kind of stumped you a little bit. Mixed responses, seems to be a bit mixed between B and C. Okay, it's a very specific bit to know, but quite important, because by backbenchers taking control of the timetable, it kind of gives more power to Parliament. So the correct answer is, so good, everybody's coming through with this now, is B, 35. So 35 days when the House of Commons, the backbenchers, MPs who aren't in the government are able to decide on the timetable and the debates put forward. So brilliant. And our last MCQ is, so select committees have been argued to be what? A, B, C, or D? Okay, a bit more of a tricky one. Oh, some people saying extremely effective. Don't know if that's completely true. They have some effect, but are they extremely effective? Okay, good. Some people coming through the right answer now. Excellent. Some people saying a bit too selective. I guess in some ways it can be selective too. You could definitely make a case for all of these actually, which is very true. So they can be selective in the sense that it's still comprised of majority of the majority in Parliament. So that's a bit of an issue too. And I wouldn't say it's the only way to protect democracy, though, being that there are many other ways that British democracy is upheld. So the correct answer is C, toothless watchdogs. So they do great work in terms of watching and ensuring that the government doesn't act beyond things like the rule of law. But actually, what can they do when a lot of the things that they do is actually after the fact, after legislation has been passed and so forth. So well done, guys. Over to you, Duncan, for the next one.
Okay, so we've got something where we can put things in an order here. We're going to put these legislative stages in the correct order. Now, we're only going through one of the chambers here, so it's not the full legislative process. Obviously, once a bill goes through the House, if it starts in the Commons, it then has to go through the Lords, similar stages in the Lords, or vice versa. But could you put these stages of a bill in the correct order? So some of them are pretty self-explanatory, but there are a couple where people sometimes get them in the wrong order. So see how you do. So you can just do, put the numbers in the correct order. So just type the numbers into the chat window in the order that they happen in Parliament. So people are starting to do that now. Okay. So we're seeing some answers here. I think I've seen some correct ones now. Oh, yeah, lots of correct answers coming through now. So shall we have a look at the right answer? Yeah, so first reading, second reading was straightforward enough, but then it was the committee stage, and from the committee then you have the report stage, then the third reading, then it would go to the other chamber and go through the same stages again. And if there was full agreement, no amendments at that point, it would go to royal assent. Okay, so well done. Some good answers there. Lots of people getting it absolutely spot on. I'm going to hand back to Kira.
Cool, thank you. So one of the things that's quite important for this unit is considering a synoptic link back to democracy, and thinking about one of the important roles of Parliament is to be representative. So it's important to kind of have some idea about how has representation changed over successive parliaments. So we're going to do that specifically looking at female MPs. So this is a take on higher or lower. So I'm going to start off with the 2015 election and tell you how many female MPs were elected in 2015. So the answer is 191. And then you're going to see for the next year, which is 2017, what do you think? Do you think that there were more or less, is it higher or lower, the amount of female MPs? And bonus points if you put in the correct amount of female MPs in 2017 too.
That'd be very impressive, wouldn't it?
Okay, good. We've got some people saying higher. Sarah's saying less. Good.
A mixture.
And who could get the closest? Let's see. Yeah, let's see if you could get actually the number. So you're correct. Time to Google the answers. I mean, So the correct answer is actually higher. But by how many? What was the correct answer? 208. Okay, so some of you are pretty close. Some of you, one of you was only actually 7 out. Well done, Emma. Only about 8 out as well. Brilliant. Okay, so what about the next year? So 2010. So going backwards a little bit. Do you think in 2010 they had more or less female MPs in 2017? I mean, still pretty bad considering there's 650 MPs. Even if all the female MPs in history sat in the House of Commons today, it still wouldn't be 650. Well done. Okay, excellent. It's definitely lower. Well done. So much lower in 2010.
Suggest a number?
Yeah, any numbers? Any guesses?
Someone suggested 150, 179.
Jasmine is saying less than 150. Good. Very close, actually. Oh, someone's coming out. Oh, wow. Zaina, very close. The correct answer for this one is 143. So an abysmal amount, actually, considering women are half the population.
And Bella got it spot on. I don't know whether that was a quick Google. I don't know, but if not, well done.
Yeah, more or less is pretty good. So what about in the most recent election, actually, in 2019? Do you think this is going to be higher or lower than 2010? Tom saying more than half. I like your optimism, Tom. Wow, what, Megan? Okay, well done. She's clearly done some great amount of revision. Zayn is saying 650. Sounds interesting. So the answer is definitely higher. In fact, 2019 is seen to be the most representative parliament yet across all different demographics, not just for women. But still not quite 50%. It's 220 MPs were female MPs in 2019. Really impressive, though. You guys got very close with 2019. So it's good to see you've got up-to-date knowledge.
A couple of people got that spot on. Well done. Really
brilliant,
good.
Yeah.
Still you, Kira, I think.
Oh, yeah, of course. So this next one then is about kind of trying to work out it's a categorized, so you basically just think, okay, Commons, both, Lords. So what I want us to think about is which powers on this list belong to the House of Lords, which belong exclusively to the House of Commons, and which actually belong to both. So just kind of put in the chat Commons, or just do it maybe one by one. List the Commons ones first with just the number, then list both, and then list the Lords. So you're going to actually have 60 seconds to do this. And let's see who can get all of these correct first. Okay, let's go ahead then. Okay, wow, some good guesses already. Oh, an interesting misconception, actually, AC, on where you've put number one, actually.
A few people have gone for one, haven't they?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually, but one isn't just exclusively in the House of Commons. Well done, Samuel. Wow, well done. Nearly. Oh, yeah, no, well done, Samuel. It's actually all right.
There is music playing. It's meant to build up the tension, like at the end of MasterChef or something like that.
Okay, so let's see how we've done then. So pretty strong on a few of those, but the one I saw that was mostly in the wrong category was the one that provides governments with ministers. This is seen as to be actually quite undemocratic, the fact that Lords are actually able to sit in the cabinet. They might not occupy a high role in the cabinet, but they are unelected people who actually are in the front and center of government. So well done. AC's got a great example there. Nicky Morgan was an MP. She stepped down, so she didn't run in the election. And then she was put as a Lord and able to go into, I think it was the culture department for the cabinet. So excellent. She is an example of a Lord that's a minister and not an MP. So great example there. Okay, so on to you now, Duncan.
Okay, yeah. I'm not going to talk. All right, okay. So we're going to do a connection wall here. So we've got what I'm wanting here are 3 groups of 4. So as you look at it, there are just 12 things on the screen, and we've got to try and order them into 3 connected groups of 4. First of all, maybe have a look and see if you can work out what the categories might be. I'll give you 30 seconds or so to see whether you can spot what some of the categories might be. If not, I'll give you a hint. I'll suggest what the sort of area to have a look. But we're looking for 3 groups of 4 things. Okay, so select committees is on there, isn't it? But what might it be linked to? Yeah, there are 12 items, so we're looking for 3 groups of 4 connected things. All right, Ben suggested something might be to do with scrutiny, and Uthman suggested something to do with legislation, legislative process. So you are definitely looking along the right lines here. We're looking at the roles of Parliament, essentially, and examples of Parliament carrying out 3 of its roles. Well, I've kind of stuck 2 together, so 4, but but we'll make it as 3 groups. So representation is one of those groups. Scrutiny, and I've kind of put scrutiny and accountability together, and the other one is legislation. Okay, so you've worked out the categories between us. Well done. Shall we have a look at representation to begin with? I think Lily, as I said, representation might be one of them. Which of these could be to do with representation? Can we spot maybe 4 that might relate to representation? What could it be? Yes, you're absolutely right. Scrutiny is another one, and legislation is another one. But should we start with representation? What do we think? Which of these could relate to representation, the representative role of Parliament? The increased number of female and BAME MPs, absolutely. Trustee model, well done, Matt. Constituency casework and constituency surgery. So I think Gina's got very close to all 4. Is anyone between us, have we got all 4 of them? I think we might have. Let's hope it's the first one that comes up. I think it is. Let's see. List the representative roles. So we had the constituency surgery, constituency casework, trustee model, and the increased number of female and BAME MPs. Well done. Now, a couple of people put some of the other ones on there, and of course, some of these roles do cross over, and so which is, it's interesting in itself. But obviously, we're looking for a set of 4 that go together. So you spotted what the other categories were. Should we look at legislation now? Parliament carrying out its legislative role. Which of these might relate to legislation and the legislative role? Some really good answers there, by the way. Some people are finding those 4 very well. Okay, first reading, Uthman, absolutely. That definitely relates to legislation. Well, and amendments, first reading, public bill committees. PMQs isn't particularly to do with legislation, but otherwise that's a good connection. First reading, amendments, public bill committees. Need one more that relates to legislation. Yeah, not so much the select committees. I mean, they can consider legislation, but that wasn't the ones I was looking for there. So we've got most of them here. First, we've got the amendments, first reading, public bill committees. Just looking for that 4th one. Lily, I think you've got it there. The English votes for English laws. That also relates to the legislative process and the legislative role, doesn't it? I know people linked it with representation earlier as well, which I can see why you might. Okay, so shall we have a look at that connection? Okay, and that does lead us with our last 4. So it's basically what is linking those last 4: PMQs, motion of no confidence, the liaison committee, and select committees. So what's the connection for those last 4? People got it really early on, actually. But what is that connection? Scrutiny, absolutely. Scrutiny and accountability. Yeah, absolutely. And some really good answers there. And I think also illustrated in the answers was how some of these roles cross over and how certain things that Parliament does, for example, Prime Minister's questions, it's mainly a situation for scrutiny and holding the government to account, but it's also an opportunity for backbench MPs to raise constituency issues, so it can be representation as well. We could look at some of these others there. So that's fantastic. Okay, well done, people. Okay, and another activity here. It's called On Balance. And this activity, we ask you to look at some arguments for and against a position. Okay, eventually a couple that I've come up with will go on there, but I want you to come up with some here. So the issue is Prime Minister's questions an effective way of holding the government to account? I imagine we could probably come up with lots of arguments against this. It's the sort of thing you hear people say. You hear the argument against it more often than the argument in favour of it. But I'd like us to start with the argument in favour of it. So can you try and come up with some arguments that suggest that Prime Minister's questions is an effective way of holding the government to account? Okay, Zaina, so raises questions and debates. It does do that. Anything else? Applies pressure on the government. Okay. What else have we got? Arguments in favour. Prime Minister's questions being effective. Allows them to scrutinise the government. Allows the opposition to scrutinise the government. It's frequent. Yeah. MPs can ask any question. It's a good point there
about allowing the opposition to do it as well. Like, we're one of the few countries that has that, which is quite interesting. Rather than just having the press do it, it's very different doing it through MPs.
Absolutely. And any MP can ask, which is good. It's media coverage, so it's very much in the spotlight, puts them on the spot, forces the Prime Minister to be informed. It does, doesn't it? So from an accountability point of view, the Prime Minister has to be able to answer all those questions. Okay. So loads and loads of really good answers, actually. Really detailed and thoughtful answers. Shall we have a look at what I put down for arguments in favour? But a lot of yours are just as good, if not better. It puts the Prime Minister on the spot, which some of you said. Opposition leaders can ask follow-up questions, which is quite useful, isn't it? So if the Prime Minister gives an answer which doesn't seem to be sufficient, then the opposition leader can, do have a few questions, and they can say, well, hang on a minute, I want to ask a bit more about that. You will notice that the Prime Minister tends to count the questions and times a particular answer for the last one, which they can't come back on. It's always worth keeping an eye on that. Okay, so, and you came up with loads of brilliant extra arguments in favour of that proposition. What about against them? What might we say to suggest that Prime Minister's questions is not a particularly effective way to hold the government account? Okay. Actually, I'm quite intrigued about this Tony Blair eating bananas thing. There's going to be a discussion about it in the chat window, I can see. It's staged, Emma, yeah. Not Tony Blair eating bananas, but Prime Minister's questions in general. Yeah, it's there's it's unnecessarily adversarial, perhaps. It's Punch and Judy, politics, aggressive. Lots of good points there. Planted questions, political theatre. Ben, have you seen my PowerPoint? It turns into a point-scoring contest. It's become a circus, no substance, waste time. It's a very long bit of time. It's got longer and longer. It used to be on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and it was about 15 minutes for the two bits, and they moved it on to Wednesday to be a half an hour session. But under John Bercow, it sometimes went on nearly as long as an economics revision blast. And it's not very effective. PM can just lie, political theatre. Yeah, so brilliant points coming here. Shall we have a look at some of the ones that I put down? Yeah, the planted questions and political theatre. I think someone did those precise ones earlier on, which was great. Yeah, so by planted questions, obviously, it's particularly ones from the government's own backbenchers tend to just ask questions to give the Prime Minister an opportunity to say things that they want to say, and that takes up nearly half the time. And it's much more about trying to score a point and trying to, in the kind of aftermath on BBC Two or whatever, to be told that they won, rather than necessarily genuinely holding the government to account. And there's lots of good examples of that coming up in the chat window, which is very impressive. Okay.
I like Emma's matter-of-fact answer. bunch of waffling. Sounds about right.
And often, and it can be, can't it? Because obviously people are aware of the clock as well. So if you can give quite a long answer, then it limits the number of questions that can be asked and things like that. Absolutely. And it's obviously we said before that there's a lot of media coverage of this, a lot of media interest in it. And there is, and not just in the UK, actually. I mean, people in other countries, find it quite entertaining because they might not have anything quite the same in their parliament. But it's not always a good look for parliament, is it, if people are wanting to see politicians taking things seriously? Sometimes the kind of theatrical nature of Prime Minister's questions, the Punch and Judy Yahoo culture, as Maeve has put in the chat window, can put people off a little bit, can't it? Some really good answers there. Well done. Very impressed with that. Fantastic. Really good. So that's all our activities for today, and we're back to the green room.
What a fantastic response. That on balance activity looks like a really useful, a very effective way of revising those kind of core essay topics, core questions, aren't they?
Yeah, because it's exactly what you need to do in an essay, isn't it? You need to do that, that balancing act, pairing arguments together. What also, of course, what you have to do is decide which you think is the stronger argument. And I suppose, we could just quickly in the chat window, because I can see Emma saying, we want more. I'm very, very happy to give more. Which argument do you think was stronger? Reach your judgment, do your AO3. Do you think Prime Minister's questions is effective or not? Happy to see some answers in there. But yeah, well done. I thought there's some great answers.
On that, how important is it for students to have some topical examples of where, for example, PMQs has proved effective in terms of holding the PM to account, or where the PM has perhaps evaded scrutiny through effective use of the... Is it worth having one or two topical as well as timeless classic examples?
It definitely, yeah. And it's good to have both, because obviously there's some sort of textbook examples, classic examples that really illustrate the point very well, but they're often now quite out of date. And we are talking about, politics as a contemporary subject. And so things happen, things change, and it would be, it's very important to try and include some things like that in there. So yeah, always keep an eye on the news, always keep an eye on what's going on. Absolutely. Okay, there's some good answers.
PMQs being effective is an odd one though, because it's very rarely it has a massive impact. But I think the best one is the Corbyn reversing the universal credit charge against Theresa May. I think that's probably a solid one, maybe for a couple.
Yeah, it's one of the very few examples of a clear policy change as a result of a Prime Minister's questions, and there really aren't very many of them. But yeah, that in terms of that has the advantage of being recent and an actual example of it. One of the few examples which actually say, yeah, you can definitely use that. There are lots of questions coming up in the chat window about what we could do in the future, and also answers to that question. So that's great, really good. Yeah.
Well, I know next week we've lined up political parties, haven't we? Are we covering pressure groups at the same time, or is that going to be a separate session?
We were talking about doing them separately. I am seeing that people are saying, could we do some US politics and things like that as well? Yeah. And so, obviously that would be two UK topics, but I think it probably makes sense to do them separately, because there is a lot in political parties, because obviously it can make links to the ideologies as well. So I think we'll do political parties and then do pressure groups another time, whether it's before or after an American one. But obviously, once we start saying American, it's already come in. Emma's saying, what about global? And that is the issue when we start looking at year 13 topics, and also some of like the non-core ideologies as well. It'd be nice to do feminism or nationalism or something, but obviously, you're all doing different ones. So, but yeah, we can definitely look at it, and we could look at making some of the resources, even if we don't do the live session, for some of the the minority options, can't we?
Yeah, fab.
And making them available.
Well, don't forget, obviously, it's fantastic, everyone logging in and watching the live stream, participating so fantastically on the chat window. You can watch the replay as soon as this is finished. Also on the tutorstudent.net/live link in politics, you can also download all the PowerPoints for this session and the previous three, and all future sessions as well. So we'll make sure that those files are live for you if you want to have a look at the examples and what have you. If you enjoyed the session, please give Kira and Duncan the thumbs up on the YouTube there, because otherwise they're going to be very, very upset this evening. So that'd be really appreciated. And also, if you want to have an alert for when politics, A-level politics, and other A-level live sessions are being run, click the bell icon on on YouTube to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get an alert as soon as we schedule all the rest. But I mean, what a great session. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks very much to Kieran and Duncan I know they've been really busy today teaching, for taking some more time out today to join us. And well, sounds like we'll see you everyone this time next week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Well done with all
Cheers,
your answers,
everyone.
guys.
Well done.
Great stuff. Bye.